So we're going to keep this short and sweet for these questions. So quite simply, Tracy, what is CITB? What does it stand for?
Okay, CITB is the Construction Industry Training Board, and what that means is they are the Sector Skills Council for training in the construction industry.
If I wanted to be a member of the CITB, do I have to be a decorator?
No, membership of CITB is open for all employers in any construction trade.
So if I did actually want to get involved with the CITB, do I have to be a big company? Do I have to be, let's say, a big decorating firm or a big, building firm?
No. In fact, small businesses are encouraged to register and join. So you only really need to have one other member of staff in addition to yourself. However, if you are a sole trader and you do use CIS subcontractors, then you can register as well.
How can the CITB help me improve my business? Let's call it my decorating company. How can CITB help me improve that?
Well, there's lots of ways that CITB can help you. So one of the first ways I can mention is the raft of different funding streams they have available. So they have grants available for you to take short courses to upskill yourself. They have something called the Skills and Training Fund, which is a bit of a bigger pot of money that you can use for training for courses. They have MVQ grants. They have grants if you take on an apprenticeship. There's also the CITB advisors, and they're a wealth of knowledge. So it's worth connecting with your local CITB advisor and building a good relationship with them. They know what's going on in the industry in your area. They'll keep you informed of things. They'll get you involved with things that they think you might be able to help with, have a good input to. So there's lots of ways they can help. The advisors as well, they usually have so many contacts through the natural course of their role that they can help you with all sorts of things that you might not think are necessarily just a thing you might contact your CITB advisor for initially. But they really are good, and they really do look after their employers.
So obviously, if I want to be involved with the CITB, is there a registration fee that obviously I'd have to pay?
No, employers can register for free at any time.
But is there an annual fee? Does it cost me to be a member?
No, there's no annual fee or membership fees or anything in that respect. You do have to submit a levy return each year. And depending on your circumstances, you may have to pay an amount of what they call a levy payment. But for most small businesses, they're usually exempt from that.
Okay. So technically, at this point, it doesn't cost me anything to join, and it doesn't cost me anything each year to be a member. So That's pretty cool. So how do I go about registering with the CITB?
Well, there's a couple of ways. You can register online immediately. So you can just go visit www.citb.co.uk. At the top of the screen, when you get the homepage there's a button saying register. You can click that and follow that through and follow the steps and register online. Or if you prefer, you can make contact with your CITB advisor. You can find their details again on the CITB website, or if you contact us, we can put you in touch with the advisor for your area, and they will help you to get registered.
Fantastic. How do I get in touch with my local CITB advisor if I need any help or advice?
Okay, so again, on the CITB website, they do have a list of all the local advisors with their name, their contact number, and their email. So you can get that online, or we have those in a list as well. So we could send you a list, or if you prefer to just contact us, we can just tell you, if as long as we know what area you're in, we can send you their details or give you their details.
Perfect. If I'm involved with the CITB, do I have to submit my accounts to CITB every year?
No. You do a levy return each year, But that's nothing to do with your turnover or the profit that your business has made or anything like that. Your levy return's just based on what you've paid out in staff wages.
I believe I'd have to pay a yearly tax if I actually became a member of the CITB. Is that true or false?
No, so this is a bit of a common misconception, really. So the levy return that you do each year would determine whether or not you do need to pay anything to CITB. This is what a lot of people refer to as the tax. But for small businesses, you need to have a wage bill in excess of £120,000 before you would pay any levy. So each year you will fill in your return. If you've just got one or two staff and yourself, and you'll find your wage bill's more than likely less than even 100,000 a year, you submit that, there's nothing to pay. And if you do have to pay any levy because your wage bill's over 120,000, you only pay the levy on the amount over the 120,000. So the first 120 is exempt from levy.
So Tracy, what is a levy return? What is it?
Okay, so the levy return, it's just a very simple form that you fill in once a year, usually around November time, and it's where you just detail the amounts you've spent in your business on staff costs, wages, etc. Throughout the previous year. That gets submitted in to CITB. If it's less than £120,000 that you've spent on staffing, you'll receive back a nil payment. You don't pay anything. If it's more than £120,000, then you will have to pay a small amount on the amount that's gone over.
Okay, cool. So how much would I have to pay? I'm obviously a small decorating business. Yeah. How much would I have to pay each year?
Well, if you're a small business and your wage bill doesn't exceed £120,000, you pay nothing.
Tracy, if I had a really good year and my wages bill with my staff and my subcontractors went over £120,000, I know that I've obviously got to now pay a levy like the big boys, the big companies. How much would that work out?
Well, for a start, you'll only pay levy on the amount over the £120,000. So say you've spent £130,000 on staffing, you'd only pay levy then on that £10,000. It's 0.35% of PAYE payments and 1.25% for subcontractor payments. So I'm not brilliant at maths on the spot like this, but you could work that out. The CITB do have a levy calculator on their website. So you can put, if you've not registered yet and you're considering it and you think that occasionally you might go over, you can have a play around with some figures on that levy calculator and have a look at what it looks like before you sort of commit yourself to anything.
So there's actually on the website, and I've looked at this myself because I was curious, and I think everybody should be. They're very transparent, the CITB, and they've got what they call a levy calculator. Mm-hmm. So what is it? How does that work?
So on the website, you just follow the links through to the levy calculator. It's under the levy grants and funding tab. And what it'll do, there's a few boxes for you to fill in. So you can put in the amounts you may have spent on PAYE employment, the amount you might have spent on subcontractor employment. If you've only got one or the other, then you can put 0 in the opposite box. And then at the bottom, it will calculate for you what levy you would be due to pay on the amount, based on the amounts you've put in, and you will find in most cases for small businesses it is 0.
It is 0. I've done it myself. I've done it many times. I've played around with it. I mean, it's very good at the moment. I believe that obviously since COVID they've upped the criteria from 85,000 to now 120,000, which is fantastic news for your small businesses like ourselves. We can have plenty of growth without actually having to pay the levy return.
Yeah, that's true. CITB they're actually really supportive. I don't understand why more people don't already know about them, but I guess if you don't know, you don't know. It was one of the first things they did immediately when COVID hit. They upped the levy threshold from 80,000 to 120 to sort of pull more people into being eligible to get funding for training while they needed it,
Okay, so let's say I've had a really good year. I've obviously done a lot of training, and my business has grown, and now I've come to the end of the year and I've got to submit my levy return. How difficult is it to fill in the levy return, file it, and submit it? I mean, is it a difficult process?
Okay, no, it's not difficult at all. They usually send them out to you via email, so it's something you can complete online. If they have no joy getting hold of you online, they will post you a paper one to your house or your business address. It may look a little complicated at first. It is a couple of pages long. It asks you quite a few questions, but they're only in relation to your wage bill and your business, and no questions about turnover. I've filled in a couple myself now with people, and then they're not difficult. But if you do struggle with it because they look daunting, the best thing I can advise you to do is actually contact your CITB advisor, because it is their role to help their employers to complete their levy returns. So they'll be absolutely more than happy to help you with that. They'll even come out and see you and sit with you and do it together. Or help you over the, whatever's easiest for you. They will help you. They're really helpful.
If I actually use my CITB advisor for anything really, filling in my paperwork, doing my levy return, is that an additional cost to me as a CITB member? Does it cost me to use the advisors?
No, absolutely not. That's what they're there for. They're there to support their members, and if you're a member of CITB, they are there to support you.
So being a CITB member, obviously through my decorating company, I believe that I can access, to grow my business, I can access CITB grants. What are grants?
Well, the CITB have got a number of pots of money available to give to employers to help upskill their workforces. They are known as grants. There's also the Skills and Training Fund. So there is different terminology. Most people sort of box everything together and just call it grants, but they are technically different things. There's lots of grants available for different things, which we'll talk about shortly.
Okay. If I get a grant off CITB, do I have to pay it back? I mean, is it like technically is it a loan? Do I have to pay the money back?
No. Training grants are exactly that. They're grants. They're given to you to support your business. They go in your accounts as a training grant. It's not taxable because it's not income. It's also worth probably pointing out as well that any genuine costs you incur associated with traveling to any training, and if you've got to stay over in hotels and get food while you're genuinely out on a training course, that can go in your accounts as tax deductible expenses.
Can I claim money back from the CITB for that?
You can't claim money back through CITB for attending courses that you've had funded through the Skills and Training Fund or that you've got grant payments for. There are some travel subsidies available for apprentices that have to travel to college, but you would be better speaking to your CITB advisor about the ins and outs of those, because there's not really a one rule fits all for them. That's a bit more complicated. But if you've got an apprentice going to college anyway, you'll already have a CITB advisor and apprenticeship officer that you be in touch with. So I'd suggest speaking to them.
What type of grants could I actually obtain, obviously, for my decorating company? I mean, what grants could I use? What am I looking for?
Okay. Well, we'll talk about the short course grants first. They're the most sort of common ones that people do sort of already know about usually when you speak to them. So there's a raft of short courses which CITB have deemed as needed in the industry. It's what they call grant eligible training. The whole sort of training board as such has come together and took advice from people in industry to say these are the skills we need to make the workforce, current and up to date. So they will give grant payments for anyone who undertakes those courses. There's a list again on the website of those courses, and there's over 1,500 of them. So things like all the courses we run at Paint Tech are all grant aided. Things like your IPAF, your PASMA, SMSTS, SSSTS, all things like that, plus loads more. I mean, they support every trade in construction, so there's just thousands of them. And each short course you do that falls under a grant eligible standard is worth a value of either £30, £60, £70 or £120, and they get paid to you the grants once you've completed the training. So that's one portion of it, sort of on its own, the short course training.
Okay. Yeah. What else we got then? So you've just explained that obviously short course grants are one option, but you say that there's another option for grants?
Yeah, there's loads of options. So they have grants as well for MVQs. So if you undertake an MVQ, there's a £600 grant available on completion of that. And each business each year can claim up to 4 of those. So if you have other members of staff or subcontractors that work for you and they complete an MVQ, you can claim that grant through your business. So that's potentially £2,400 you could claim if all 4 people were to undertake an MVQ.
So we've obviously looked at CITB helping us with grants, but is there any other forms of funding?
Yeah, so CITB also have what's called the Skills and Training Fund. So these are sort of bigger pots of money really than grants. Rather than looking at small amounts like £30 or £60, we're looking at thousands of pounds available to support businesses through the Skills and Training Fund. You can apply for the Skills and Training Fund every year as well, so it's not just a one-off payment, it's an annual fund that is there to support businesses to grow and develop.
As a small decorating company, how could the likes of the Skills and Training Fund help my business? What kind of courses are we looking at being a small decorating firm?
Well, you can pretty much apply for anything really through the Skills and Training Fund. It sort of depends what you need. Most people go for short courses, but very much similar to the courses that we offer at Paint Tech. But you can also put MVQs on there. I mean, the purpose of the Skills and Training Fund is to get the skills that the workforce needs. So they won't look favourably on random courses. That they're not going to fund if you want to go to night school and do like a baking class or something.
Yeah.
Then that's not covered. It's got to be related to your business, and it's got to be trade related. So there are some options for business mentoring and things on there, but it's mainly for your trade upskilling.
So this pot, this Skills and Training Fund pot, sounds amazing. I mean, you said the word thousands, not even like tens and twenties. It sounds like there's a lot of money, and me being a small decorating business, how much are we talking, Tracy? How much can I access through the Skills and Training Fund?
Okay, well, there is a scale depending on the size of your business as to how much you can access.
Let me ask a question. If I am a sole trader, let's say I'm a one-man band that's looking at wanting to increase my business, can I access the Skills and Training Fund?
Yeah, so obviously it depends on your circumstances as to whether or not you've got any subcontractors that you use, but the best thing we would advise in that instance, if you're a sole trader and you're unsure whether or not you would be eligible, would be to contact your CITB advisor and have a good chat with them. They'll go through all the eligibility criteria, and they'll also help you look at ways to make yourself eligible if you're not already. So they might suggest things you hadn't thought of, so it's always worth a conversation.
That's fantastic news, because there is a misconception that you've got to be a big firm, but every dealings that we've had with CITB, and especially the advisors, they are there to do exactly that, advise the best way to upskill your business, and they will do what they can within their power to obviously make that happen.
They will, yeah.
So that's fantastic. So if I was a sole trader, and let's say that this time of year the apprenticeships are coming out and school leavers are jumping into apprenticeship, if I took on an apprentice, being obviously a sole trader one-man band, does that entitle me to £2,500 a year, or is it entitled me to 5,000?
You'd actually be eligible for the 5,000 if you had an apprentice, because things have changed over the years, and apprentices now have to be taken on as proper PAYE employees. It's part of their apprenticeship contract with college. So college won't take them if they're not. So there's no cash in hand apprentices or anything like that anymore. So yes, you'd be instantly then eligible for the 5,000 a year. Plus, you'd get your apprenticeship grants.
Yeah. If I obviously had an apprentice and I access Skills and Training Fund, do I have to use that money just on myself, or do I have to use it on the apprentice, or how does that work?
You can use it for both. So, I mean, it's up to you what's needed in your business. So if at that point you decided you just wanted to spend all the money just on yourself, you can do. If you decided you wanted to spend it all on the apprentice, you can do. And if you want to do a mix and both of you do courses together, or both of you do different courses, you can do that as well. It's totally up to you how you spend the money on your staff.
We've accessed the Skills and Training Fund. We've now done a couple of courses, everything's running nice. And then unfortunately, halfway through the year, my apprentice has decided that it's not working out for him, or vice versa, and he's left. Do I have to pay back obviously the training pot, the Skills and Training Fund? Do I have to pay that money back because he's left?
No, not at all. And especially he might have already completed some of the courses that you'd applied for anyway. But even if you hadn't, worst case scenario is you'd just maybe have to contact the Skills and Training team and look at doing what we call a variation form for your project, because it might be that you need to make some changes now, and that you need to say you want different courses because you're going to do them all and things like that. But you don't have to pay it back if they've left.
Okay, fantastic. On the assumption that obviously I'm wanting to scale my business and I'm wanting to access the Skills and Training Fund, and I decide to take on a member of staff, does that entitle me to 2.5, or is that the £5,000 pot? How does that work? And what's the criteria? I mean, what do we class as staff? Do they have to be an apprentice, or what's the deal?
So to be eligible to sort of hit the £5,000 per year pot, the staff you would take on would need to be PAYE staff on a permanent contract. They don't need to be full time. They could be part time. They could even be 0 hours, but they need to be permanent, proper members of your workforce. If you take on someone and it's just through CIS, because that's you just sort of go with the peaks and troughs of the business throughout the year, so you can't take someone on permanently, then you would only be able to go for the 2,500. But if you've got someone who's permanently with you throughout the year on PAYE, then you're £5,000.
Okay, so let's assume that we've had a good year and we've taken on a couple of members of staff. We've obviously accessed the grants and the Skills and Training Fund. We've done loads of training. We're halfway through the year. and my staff situation changes. In other words, certain people leave, certain people join us. How does that affect the skills and training fund? I mean, what if that fund has been put together to train the original staff that are working in my business? So how does that work?
Well, again, it depends on the situation. If you've got new staff coming to replace the old staff and they can take the place on the courses you'd planned for the original people, then you just carry on as planned and send the new staff on the courses instead. But if you need to change anything because those courses might no longer be suitable, or you just basically decide you need to change it for whatever reason, then again it's just a case of contacting the skills and training team for a variation form, and you fill that in, and then they'll swap it all over for you to what you need.
So Tracy, you just mentioned something called a variation form. Are you saying that if I kind of put a case together with my advisor or with you guys, and I'm halfway through running the courses, and then suddenly a new course appears, something that I think is fantastic, and I really want to get involved with, do I have to wait till the end of the year and try and do that course next year, or can I make a change and try and pull that course in because I think it's really beneficial to my business?
Yeah, so you can make changes. Obviously, when you first do your application, it should be a considered process. You should have given it some thought about what training you need for your business for the next year. But CITB do recognise that things change. Industry changes, new cutting edge things might suddenly appear that you didn't know were an option 6 months ago, and you're halfway through a year's project and you think, wow, I really need to get on this for my business. Then yes, it's just a case, again, a variation form. You're allowed to make one change each year to your variation form, and it is the same concept. So if you were entitled to £5,000, but originally you only applied for £3,000, you've done all that training now. You didn't think you were going to need the other two, but something's just come up and you think, wow, that would be really beneficial for my business. You can add that on with your variation form. So, if the course you want to do is £700 and there's actually two of you that want to do it, then you can use up all the remaining fund that you've got for that.
Let's say that we've accessed a lot of funding, through the Skills and Training Fund for obviously my decorating business. And for some reason, I haven't completed all of the training courses that were on my application, let's say. What do I have to do if I actually don't complete the courses?
There's a few options. So you can either just give the money back and scrap that year because you haven't done it, but that's frowned upon, so I wouldn't advise doing that. Or you can again ask for a variation form, which will allow you to ask for an extension. So on your variation form, you can stipulate on there that you want to keep the plan as was, but you need a little bit more time. They have been really, really good with employers throughout the whole of COVID and since then, because they do understand that things change, and they are here to support employers. The fund's there for you, and they want you to spend that money. They want you to have it, and they want you to have the training. They really, really do. So they're usually really helpful and supportive. You can usually apply for an extension of 3 months. In some special cases, they will permit 6 months if you need it. They might want to see that you've actually booked your courses, so that they know they are going to take place within the time frame that you've stipulated. But they're usually fine with that.
If I don't use all my money in 1 year, can I roll it over to the second year?
No, unfortunately. I think probably because they budget for each year and they know what they've allocated and what have you. If it's not spent, you have to pay it back.
So Tracy, I've obviously filled in a Skills and Training Fund application form, and it's all great, and I've looked at all the courses. Do those courses have to be with, let's say, one training provider? Do they have to be with one company, or can I kind of do different courses with different companies?
Yeah, no, not at all. You can mix and match depending on what you need. One training provider might not offer all of the courses that you need, and again, that's something they do recognise. So you're free to use as many different ones as you need to. The only thing to sort of consider really is when you're completing your application, you do have to demonstrate that the training provider you have chosen is actually of good quality and value for money. So they won't just fund any old course with any old training provider. There's certain evidence that you have to provide to say why you want to use that provider. A very quick way to evidence a good quality provider is to note on the application form that they are an approved training organisation for CITB. That means as soon as CITB receive that application and they see that, they know straight away that they can approve that training because the provider is approved by them to offer that training.